Hello, everybody. Today we're joined by Haile McAnally, chair of the Young Republicans, Omaha, Nebraska. We met at AmFest. She's an awesome person. She knows the difference between men and women. And thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start by just diving into your story, how you grew up, how you became who you are, maybe some adversity you faced in your life to get you to the point where you are now with the beliefs you have now.
Yeah, so I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I am very biased to this, but it is the best state and city in the entire nation. Grew up here, went to school here. I did not go to college right out of high school. I actually lost 130 pounds and I got certified as a personal trainer and opened up a gym here in Omaha and decided to go the entrepreneur business route, which was fantastic and opened up so many doors for me. But in the political world, in about 2020 during COVID, I'm sure we all remember that, I had a hard time with the mandates. And believe it or not, in 2020, I was a registered Democrat. I was a Bernie Sanders
Whoa.
supporter, which always surprises people when I say that. But I sure was. I was a registered Democrat. I still have a screenshot of my voter registration because I'm like, I can't even believe the journey I've been on since then. But during COVID, I was very outspoken about the mandates, the masks, the vaccine mandates, and so I started speaking at rallies that were happening in Nebraska and got really connected. Still a Democrat at this point, and one day I saw an ad on Facebook that said you could run for office, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I sure can. Why not? I had no idea what local government even entailed, not a clue what a state legislature did, didn't even know what district I was, who my representative was. I just knew I was so passionate about the mandates and personal freedom that I decided to throw my hat in the ring for Legislative District 12 in Nebraska and ran against an incumbent, did much better than people expected me to do. Got outspent by probably 1,000 times. But the greatest thing about my campaign is we ran it kind of like John F. Kennedy's mom. If anybody knows the story of how he ran his campaign, she did a lot of things in her house. She would bring people over for tea, and he would basically go and campaign. And we see a lot of that still these days. But it was very much the personal, local, intimate aspect that I liked about campaigning. And what I absolutely fell in love with, not only with my community, and I love my community, but also the fact that there's so many ways that Democrats and Republicans overlap. So I ran as a Republican because at the time Republicans were the only ones that were making sense in the mandate uh, conversation. We were the only ones that were like, "Hey, just let people choose if they want to wear a mask. Let people choose if they want to get a vaccine." And that was a very resonating topic to me. So I ran as a Republican, started going to Republican events and getting involved, and I realized I'm actually a raging conservative. And the things that I always thought were Democrat-leaning things, like for instance, small government and fiscal responsibility and standing up for the little man. Those were all things that I thought Democrats stood for. And the more I got involved and learned how the Republican Party is a big tent party, I was like, this is it. This is my home. So I ended up losing my race, unfortunately, but I always like to say that being a graceful loser is one of the best strengths a person can have because what came from that is so many opportunities. I was the candidate that was very young. I had bright blonde hair, right? Just like not your typical candidate. I was wearing pink suits. I did everything wrong. In a consultant's mind, I did everything wrong. I had pink yard signs, but it was wonderful and it resonated with the voters and it was new energy. And I've kept and maintained that for the last 4 years, which has been the greatest joy of my life. And I actually recently got elected as the chair of the Omaha Young Republicans and as the communications director for the Nebraska Republican Party. So I am entrenched in Republican politics because I believe that we speak in truth, we live in truth, we have loving compassion. And some of these issues that I know we're going to talk about, like the gender topic and what is happening with masculinity and femininity right now, and why this gender bending of roles is not sustainable for our society. These are huge issues and issues that can have huge ramifications going forward in our culture and in our society. So now I go on social media and I talk about this stuff, and I come on wonderful podcasts like yours, and I do a lot in Republican politics, and that's what I do.
Well, that's absolutely spectacular, you know? We need that young energy in politics. And I think it's starting to shift that way. People are tired of old people basically deciding everything for us. I want to
Totally.
start by asking, first of all, why is Nebraska the best state? And second of all, how did you go about losing 130 pounds? Because that sounds like a pretty impactful, motivational story. And yeah.
So I wish it was more inspirational how I lost my weight, but it truly was. I went through a really bad breakup and I wanted to be a hot ex-girlfriend. And I'm telling you, I wish there was a more motivational story, but I think we've all been there before, where you kind of go through this time where you've lost your identity because you've been attached to someone for so long. And all I wanted to do was find myself again and be better than the person I was before the relationship. And so I just started working out, started kind of sort of eating healthy, and I got addicted to the progress. I got addicted to the results and decided to compete in a bodybuilding show. And then I decided to compete for Miss Nebraska. I became Miss Nebraska in 2019, going to 2020, and then COVID happened. And so things kind of slowly, also a journey that just kind of evolved into something much greater. But it was truly just the organic eating healthy and working out, maintaining low stress, getting a lot of sleep, which are all things that I still do to this day. And then the other
I've heard
question,
those are signs of right wing extremism, if I
they
recall
are, and I
correctly.
am a proud right wing extremist for sure when it comes to that.
It's
Absolutely,
for being
absolutely.
healthy, me too. The
Yes.
other question's Nebraska or Omaha, maybe specifically. I don't know which you said was the best place to grow up, I believe.
Yes.
Why is that?
So
Or why is it the best
Nebraska,
state?
I always like to say this, and this was actually an answer I gave when I was running for Miss Nebraska. Um, we've all been on a long vacation before, and that first night that you get home and you sleep in your own bed and you cook your own food, and you just like the comfort and the familiarity and the security that you feel being in a very familiar place, that is Nebraska all the time. You always feel safe. We have great leadership. We have a great community. We're known to be Nebraska nice. The hospitality, we have low crime rate. It's just there's something about Nebraska, and it's always when you ask someone, what do you like about the state? People will say the people. Because it's a hometown feel, but you still get that very urban or suburban or rural, whatever you want out of this state, and it's just fantastic. So I encourage everybody to come and experience Nebraska. The College World Series is coming to Omaha in a few weeks, so it's a good time to do it.
That's wonderful. I love that hospitality, the kindness that people seem to have from some of these other states other than California. Everyone's chill at least, besides the crazies. But yeah, there's
Yes.
something about that
Hmm.
respect and kindness, politeness that's just such an American dream come true. I love it. So I'll have to check it out someday because I've never been, you
Yes,
know.
best state in the nation.
Okay, so you said something about the gender madness and masculine and feminine. I'm curious what you think this trans insanity is right now that's going on in society and getting pushed on children even. You know, they're being mutilated, and I also wonder. Well, we'll just start there. Yeah, let's hear what you think, Haley, as regarding children and
So, one of the big things I heard on the campaign trail was the reason people were voting Republican is because of the things that the Democrats were pushing against kids. And it was the gender affirming care, which I'm not for that term at all. And I don't even like that that's even in regular vocabulary at all. But it's also the things going on in schools. It's building up the narrative so that when we get to situations where we're talking about physical transformations of kids, it's like normal, and it shouldn't be normal. It should not be something that we are so openly talking about in a affirmative way. I don't think that's how this should be going. And I truly think that by doing things like cutting off healthy breasts of little girls, or even having conversations that are so inappropriate with children, is something that is a stain in our society right now, that people have to start speaking in truth. This is a huge thing. And I think sometimes Republicans or conservatives, or even it doesn't really matter where you go, people just don't like to talk about it. They don't like to like offend
yeah,
other people because it's like a choice thing and it's a parental thing. But at the end of the day, there is studies out there that show that this does not prevent suicide. This does not prevent depression. Actually, if anything, there's probably more complications with these surgeries and these things you're doing to kids because you're confusing them at a young age. And where that kind, I mean, and I'm really, really passionate about women, young women. That's a big thing for me because I think, social media and this kind of stuff, there's a lot of attacks on women, with men too, of course, but just I can relate better to women, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but when you see this like pipeline, you're seeing more women be like, I want to be a man. I want to like, it's so much easier to be a man. I'm going to cut off all my hair. I'm going to take everything away from me that makes me a woman. And that's how I want to live. And it's like you were given this gift by God of being a woman and these things that we have that you just don't have. No offense. Women are amazing. Sorry. No.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Exactly, exactly. But we have these superpowers as women. We can be soft and feminine and delicate and very, very compassionate toward a lot of things. Where men do kind of take that rigid, more maybe cold approach to things, but that's just because they're men, and that's okay. That's fine. And so when you start bending these rules, especially at such a young age, I'm concerned that in 10 years, we're going to have this generation of kids and women and men that are confused. And a lot of parents that are going to be in a lot of deep regret because of what they did to their kids.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think gender affirming care is an Orwellian term. We're going to
Mhm.
see thousands, tens of thousands of detransitioners, hopefully some doctors and parents being held accountable. I think
Yes.
it's this war on children that's going on, this war on gender, confusing the most beautiful, simple, basic truth, which you were getting at is the difference between you and me. Men and
Hmm.
women, there's XX, XY, boys and girls, men and
Absolutely.
women. There's nothing else. And it's just sad that anyone would push such crazy ideas onto children, even. I'm
It's
curious.
wild.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, if you asked someone 20 years ago, they'd be like, there's no way that would happen.
Right. My parents would have never, and part of that's kind of why I think people are uncomfortable because they didn't grow up in a generation where this stuff was so openly talked about. And I do believe gender dysphoria exists. Like, I genuinely believe that that is a disorder that people struggle with. I do. And for a long time, that was a medical term that we used because people struggled with it. And now, all of a sudden, it's not a medical term and it's just normal to come out as trans all the time. And I have a hard time believing that, what was it, 0.11% of the population that genuinely, truly struggled with it, is now not that. And we've had this explosion of
Explosion.
trans stuff, like in kids. That's that's a hard understanding for me if that's true.
I mean, I've talked to teachers in California that say they've had a class where half the kids identify basically as some trans, non binary, or otherwise weird thing. And it's horrifying, really. It's a plague on
Mhm.
society. And we just have to put a stop to it. We've seen 26 or 7 states ban it, some other countries starting to ban it, some,
Mhm.
HHS report, CAS files, and I'm really stoked to see those. But I think that I'd like to see, some of the Congress members try to push some bills through and really attack this thing hard because unfortunately the blue states are still going full steam ahead. And speaking about differences of us, boys and girls, men and women, there's a lot of boys and men taking a lot of your trophies, scholarships, state championships, safe spaces, whatever you want to call it. I'm wondering what you think about all that.
I'm very heavily against it in a lot of ways. So when I competed in pageants, I was very blessed. It was before all this woke nonsense took over, and then when I continued to compete as I got older, I competed in systems that would not allow men in the back rooms. It just didn't exist because we had young girls there, and it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate to change in front of women. And even not just the young girls, but married women as well who have made a covenant to their husbands should not be forced to be in spaces with men that are not their husbands. And I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think that's something that we should advocate for in our society. And that's just in a very niche market of pageantry. When I think about these stories out of Planet Fitness, how do you even control that? At least in something like a pageant, it is a little bit more controlled where, directors can do stuff. But at a Planet Fitness, at these places that women are getting shamed for talking about not wanting to be in a locker room with a man, I think it's devastating. And you look at these women who have lost opportunities. What happened to Title IX? What happened to Title IX? Are we just throwing everything out the window? The Leah Thomas situation, perfect example, was 500th, right? Or something like that in the nation in swimming, decides to one day call himself a woman, and then now he's, what, fifth, fourth, first, whatever it
Tied
is.
Riley for fifth, I believe.
Yeah. And
Maybe one first in another event.
it's like this is not fair at all. Equality, which I thought we were all for, is all of a sudden thrown out the window. And I think that all of these women that are standing up and talking about it are very, very brave because the woke mob is not friendly. I've been canceled many times. I think there's a Reddit page dedicated to me. And I don't care because I can die knowing that I spoke truth, I spoke fairness, I stood up for what is right and just. And I'm just hoping all this work that as women that we're doing, standing up and speaking about this and shedding light on this, will impact young girls to come.
I think that's wonderful. I think speaking up's so important. Riley Gaines, that's someone I'm friends with. She's an incredible person, as real
Hmm.
and genuine, as it gets. Just
Yeah.
people like you two speaking up about things that matter. It just seems like there's this lack of courage in
Hmm.
society. People want to appear compassionate or kind or whatever, but the reality is there's nothing loving or compassionate about affirming these delusions. All that's happening is negative, harmful effects. And I think it's more loving and compassionate to speak the truth. So I'm hoping that more people can start to speak up, as they see others start to speak up. I feel this like wild momentum of people, even in California, just no, this gender stuff has to stop. It's insane. No guys should be in girls' sports. No kids should be mutilated. Like I don't meet anybody at the park or anywhere in life, just normal life, that agrees with it. So it's just shocking to me that it's still so prevalent in society. I don't understand. I'm wondering if you have any idea or hypothesis of where it comes from, stems from, that
Hmm.
people are the people that do push this, this gender madness.
I think that they threaten people a lot, whether it's like pitchforking at people's homes or it's canceling them on social media and telling everybody to go to their page and write hate comments about them. I think it's this ability to activate people in not a good way that people are afraid of. They're afraid of getting canceled. They're afraid of their boss finding out because, I mean, we've seen it how many times on the internet that someone says something, speaks in truth, and then 3 days later they're fired from their job because people on the internet decided to sleuth around the internet, find out where they work, call their employer, and get them fired. Like that's terrifying. They're messing with people's lives, and that's very terrifying. And I come from a place where I've been very, very blessed. All of my employers have been so strong in all of these issues where I can speak up very freely. So my perspective is a little skewed. So I don't want to like shame anyone into thinking like, I don't understand because I get it. Like that's terrifying, especially if you have a family and whatever. But at the same time, it's like at some point, we're going to ruin our society so much you're going to wish that you said something and you stood up to the mob because there's a group of us that have all been canceled. I'm sure every single person you've had on your podcast at some point has been canceled or called or attacked in some way or another. And that is very scary to people who are not used to confrontation. But let me tell you, this is my encouragement. You go through it one time, you let them attack you one time, you're gonna hate it. You're gonna want to let you go to the bathroom and cry. And I get it. I get it. But after you get after that first one, they got nothing. You've been there, you've done that, and you're gonna find your backbone. That's how it happened with me. I thought I was gonna throw up. I was like, this is it. I can't do this. And that dang Holy Spirit was like, you're actually going to do it. You're going to get attacked more, and it's for your own good, and you're going to love it. And if you listen and you lean in, it's going to be fine. So that's my encouragement for the people that feel that way.
Yeah, I love that optimism, encouragement. I feel exactly the same. It's like you start speaking the truth, and just all these doors and windows and magical things start happening and opening up. You start meeting these
Hmm.
incredible people. You start feeling stronger in yourself, like you're doing the right thing, like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. Like it's opened up my life in so many ways, having the courage to speak out. Yeah, and it's just a beautiful thing to speak the truth and fight for something that matters, which I think children personally matter more than anything in this world.
100%. But that's why they're attacking children, you know? They're attacking children because they know they're the future. And if they can get to their little brains, their little innocent, pure minds at such a young age, they got them for the rest of their lives. And, I also think a lot of times, going back to the mandate situation and how much Big Pharma was exposed during COVID, I also think about putting kids on these hormone blockers and puberty blockers so young, how they are now going to be a lifetime customer of Big Pharma. For the rest of their lives, they are going to be a customer to Big Pharma. And that is terrifying. Like these young kids who can't even drive, can't even do anything in this world without a parent. And all of a sudden, they have to take these medications for the rest of their lives. And that is a very terrifying thought, knowing what we know about Big Pharma.
Yeah, Big Pharma's obviously been caught doing a lot of shady things. I think the mandates were insane. My state in particular was extra crazy, arresting people that were surfing, etc. It was a wild time. I'm glad we're through that, and a lot of people have woken up because of it, thankfully. I feel like it happened for a reason, and it woke a lot of people up to the Big Pharma madness, government overreach,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. But yeah, kids are, some of them are going to be sterilized for life. Kids can't consent to these treatments. They can't consent to anything. That's why they can't drink, vote, get tattoos, or otherwise. We don't affirm any delusions of kids. We don't affirm when someone's anorexic, schizophrenic. When your kid says they're Superman, you don't take them to try to fly. If they say they're a pirate, we don't poke out their eye and cut off their leg. But we will, in this one instance, for some reason, actually even cut body parts off of children, which is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely insane and wrong. And
Yeah.
it's like how you see Chloe Cole, wonderful person, speak out so vulnerably, bravely. How can you see that and want to have this continue happening? It's just
Right.
sickening.
It's horrible. And it makes you think, do these people even have a soul? Do they have a soul? And that's a terrifying thought that people are running around our country thinking that this is okay. When the data is not even on their side anymore. And I think that that's also something because I thought we were trusting the science. So it's everything is so rooted in hypocrisy. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, they only trust the science when it's convenient for them, but that's okay.
Exactly.
What
Is
about?
it okay? Is it okay though? That's the question.
Well, it's not okay at all, and obviously that's why we're here. Part of the reason we're here and do
Yeah.
what we do in general is to say
Hmm.
that it's not okay and fight back against it. And I personally, I feel like you will too. I'll honestly fight with everything I have to protect children, like I did for my son, and just like I would for anyone's kids. It's way beyond me or blue states or red states, Democrat, Republican. This is just like good versus evil, protecting innocence, protecting love and truth and goodness.
Yep,
And yeah,
absolutely.
it's not okay.
Agreed. Agreed. It's not.
So something you told me was important to you is like this masculine feminine dichotomy, these
Hmm.
differences between men and women. I'd like to hear a little bit about that, what that means to you, and yeah.
Yeah, this was a few years ago. I started seeing a lot of women, and I'm 32, very proud to say it. I will not hide it. I'll say it on the internet twice with my microphone. I saw a lot of women during COVID and even after COVID, when this gender stuff really started like rearing its head. And I'm sure again we all saw because libs of TikTok posted about it, and we saw women cutting off all their hair, not grooming themselves, not caring about what they look like. And I believe that everybody can express themselves differently. I do believe that. However, we lost the meaning of femininity in a big way. And I always quote like radical feminism ruined, actually it killed femininity. It's this men are evil, women can do whatever, we're just gonna, like we don't need to be in relationships, we don't need to learn how to be soft and in our feminine energy. We don't have to do that. We're gonna be masculine, girl boss it up, we're gonna do these things that make us hard and live in masculine energy. And when you have to do that, when you have to live like that, you change. Your whole entire brain chemistry changes. I mean, we saw this. We saw this huge rise of this anti-man rhetoric going around our country. And I'm like, but what if we could do both? What if we could be very soft women and we could lean into things like, taking care of ourselves, and having families, but also we can have careers. It's okay. Like, it's going to be fine. And I know Megan Kelly kind of got some heat for saying this, but we can do both. We can do both. And I think that that's something that I really thrive in. And I found out a lot of women actually really find their best selves in is when they can lean into what it means to be a woman. We can wear dresses and we can get our hair done and we can do things that are very feminine that make us feel beautiful, because that's a big thing, right? When we feel beautiful and you kind of have those exchanges with the opposite sex, whether it's your husband or your boyfriend or whatever it is. It's like we missed out on that. We missed out on the fun of what it's like to actually have that chemistry, because that's what God intended us to do. God intended us to be partners with the opposite sex. That's what he intended. And so I took it upon myself to start bringing this up and start talking about it and start saying there's something very special about being a woman, and that how we live, our energy, our stature, everything about us is so unique, obviously. And why can't we lean into that? Why can't we, be modest in a lot of ways, but also kind of lean into something maybe, um, that maybe is a little more, feminine. I don't want to say too much on the internet because I've already done that one too many times. But I just think that's very important. I think it's very important to have those definitive energies in our culture. And I think we lost that. I think it got very, very muddled for a long time. And like I said, men are becoming women, women are becoming men. We're having this conversation about what it means to be a woman. And I think there's nothing more powerful than actually standing in your femininity and owning it, and doing life that way and being an example for younger women.
I love that. I think it's just such a beautiful difference between men and women, like that.
Yeah.
The way we complement each other and are better at different things. It's
Hmm.
just spectacular, and I'm seeing a push or like a desire to get back to that as a society, and I
Totally.
just think it's really beautiful to see. So
Totally.
thank you for staying up for that.
Anytime. I have seen. So, what's really funny about culture, and I live for it. So, I originally went to school back when I was going to go to school for fashion merchandising. That's what I wanted to do. I love the way people express themselves, and I love the way they do it through clothing. That's always been something I've really liked. But there's something that happens in culture where when it goes one way so far, like we saw women cutting off their hair and not grooming themselves, when it went so far one way, it went so far the other way. And then it was almost like people were like, I'm a trad wife. I'm a trad wife. I'm gonna have a farm. I'm gonna raise chickens, and my husband's gonna work, and that's it. Like, it was so traditional, which is fine. There's
Are
nothing
you
wrong with
saying
that.
you don't want that?
I think there's a middle.
Okay,
I think
just
there is a
asking.
middle where you can be. I personally, you know what? Here's the thing. I get my eggs from a local trad wife, and I think that's great. And I love her to pieces. And I think that's wonderful. She wants to do that. I personally am more of a line between. I like to have a career. I like to be very motivated and do a lot of things, and I like the convenience of things. Um, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to toe that line between doing that. But I also believe in traditional marriage. I also believe that the nuclear family is very, very important. So I'm right in the happy middle of that. And I will support all those local farms every day of the week for sure.
That's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so chair of Young Republicans, Omaha, Nebraska. What are you guys working on, fighting for? I actually don't know this for a fact, but I think Nebraska is a pretty red state, right? I'm wondering what the scope of politics is there, and what's sort of driving people, what issues matter, what things you guys are pushing for, fighting for, what's going on in Nebraska.
So on paper, Nebraska is a very red state. Unfortunately, we just lost our mayor, to a Democrat last week, which is unfortunate. But uh, the thing about Nebraskans is we don't like change. And unfortunately, culture has changed so much that we have to talk about cultural issues, like we've talked about with the gender issue going on. And we get a lot of pushback for that as Republicans. So we have given a lot of permission to Democrats to push through things because they've bullied people, into voting for a lesser bill. Maybe we're going to let, what was the one that failed last session? We can let men into locker rooms, but they can't play sports. And it's one of those things where any rational person would say that doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, the left has gotten so good at bullying people. And like we discussed, people are afraid of getting canceled, so they cave. And that's what happened. That bill was lessened because of Republicans. It was not Democrats that did that, it was Republicans
Wow.
that took the conscious effort to vote against what Nebraskans want. And so that's one thing we're really fighting. And as a young person, we understand the culture war very well because we grew up with it. We have been on the internet since we were basically born, and we get it. And so we can fight these issues much at a much different scale than someone who did not grow up with this. And so the resistance that we're having as young people within the Republican Party is that we find that we can only talk about issues like taxes or like levies or these issues that of course matter because local economies matter and local elections matter, but that will not matter when we lose all of our elections to crazy woke people that all they want to focus on is culture issues, and we are not prepared for that. And so we're finding this balance of bringing them up in a very non-confrontational way to the people that it matters, and still leaning into all the issues that they want to talk about too. But I've realized, being the chair of the Omaha Young Republicans, this is not an issue that is solely in Omaha or Nebraska. It is everywhere. And I think that President Trump made leaps and bounds to bridge the older generation of Republicans and the younger generation of Republicans. I think fantastic. If that is his legacy, it's a wonderful legacy to have. But uh, Omaha Omaha's blue now, which is unfortunate. But we can stop it by actually leaning and talking into these things. And then you know what? Once we defeat them, we don't have to talk about them anymore because they're defeated. We just can't get to that point because no one wants to talk about it, and we keep losing these battles. So um, Nebraska again is the greatest state, and I have so much hope in it. And Omaha is the greatest city, and I have so much hope in it. It's just going to take the right messaging. It's going to take the right people. Hopefully, I'm one of those people to lead the charge in it. That's not afraid to talk with conviction and talk with courage and talk with purpose.
I really love your optimism. It's great to see.
Thank you.
You know,
Hopeless
I'm always
optimism, I would say.
that's how I am too. I say the same thing. I'm always Mr. Brightside, and it's gotten through me through some dark things. And politics definitely is downstream of culture, so
Mhm.
it's important, to recognize that and fight for
Yep,
that.
absolutely.
And are you so you're saying was that a Nebraska thing that was voted on, or an Omaha thing that
Yeah, that was
guys were allowed
Nebraska.
in, I guess, locker
Hmm.
rooms, restrooms, but not sports?
Hmm.
That's like a
Yep.
law.
So the whole bill actually started with it started with the puberty blockers and sports in schools. So that's how it started. And with sports came locker room. So it was all just kind of it was one bill. It got defeated one time, and then it was brought back another session. But it was defeated by Republicans every single time. It got back another session, and it got watered down to just they can't compete in sports, but they can go into the locker rooms. And again, defeated by Republicans. And it's one of those things where I'm not 100% sure. And again, I think this is a national issue. I do not think this is just confined to Nebraska. But I think it's the fear of talking about this stuff. It's the fear of being bullied, and the left knows that. That's the thing. It's like we want to chalk it up as the left being like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. It's very strategic. It's very strategic how they go and they target certain people, knowing that they're squishy on issues to get their way, even if they're in the minority, which in Nebraska, they are in the minority. Like, that's the crazy thing. If Republicans just all banded together and thought like Republicans, all together in unison, we could get everything passed. But here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah, it's just kind of shocking. I live in California, and you think like there's no way that would happen in Nebraska, but even there,
It's everywhere.
evil's wiggling its way in. It's everywhere. No one's safe from it, and that's why people have to start speaking up and being
Yep,
courageous, because
exactly.
otherwise it'll be at your door, your nephew, your kid, your friend, your cousin, something,
Yep.
um,
Hmm.
and we can't let it get to that point. So
Yep.
I'm curious what you think about Trump signed two executive orders regarding this stuff.
Hmm.
And if you see any foreseeable way of perhaps federally banning, you know, guys and girls sports, mutilation, medical malpractice of children, if you think there's any way with from the federal government to get that through, because I just think it's like the greatest evil of our lifetime, like our lobotomies, our slavery. I think it's going to be looked back upon in history as just like, what is wrong with you? And
Hmm.
like, grandma, grandpa, what did you do during that time? So
Right.
that's why I
Right.
think it's important. How could you look your kids or grandkids in the eyes and say, I just kind of like chilled on my couch and was like, it doesn't affect me, or like, I was scared of losing my job, so
Right.
same as COVID. But yeah,
Exactly. I totally agree. Well, as far as the executive order, so this is my hot take. This is my hot take on executive orders. I don't love them. And here's the reason is I don't like unilateral power in government officials. I know that Trump has a mandate. I'm a big Trump supporter. You can go on any of my social media accounts. I'm a huge Trump supporter, but I did not like it when Biden did it, and I am not a huge fan of Trump doing it. And I know, I get it. I'll probably get roasted somewhere for saying that. It's the fact that I just don't think one person should have that much power. And again, I understand how they work. It's more for the agencies than it is for anything else, but um I just, that's a big thing for me. I think that the left abuses it, and so we shouldn't play right into their hands for that. But again, my mind could change somewhere else if someone brought me a better argument to that. But um,
I
I
guess
think,
I could interject if you want me to give you a
yeah,
quick
please,
argument.
please.
While I agree that executive orders generally seem somewhat unconstitutional, and not right, one man making such a big decision, I guess it's just that it's like you said, the left abuses it and the right abuses it, so it's swung so much one way that we have to bring it back to reality,
Hmm.
and then it has to be stopped. But so I would argue that we'd have to get to a place where we feel that we're comfortable in our American ideals and
Hmm.
where we are as a country, and then we should probably, limit it a little bit more.
Totally. My question is, will we ever get there? Because
No,
as the parties,
absolutely no, of course not.
that's what I'm saying.
The
So
it
every election cycle, we're going to
Yeah,
have this thing where it's like, it's just one person undoing what the other person did, and then it's going to be the whole the whole time. And
yeah.
I don't know
Unless
how.
we can get a lot of young, normal people into politics
Right, right.
and see some change. No, no,
Mhm.
term limits would be something that could help with what you're saying. I'm a big
Oh yeah,
fan of.
100%. I totally agree. I totally agree. So do I think there's going to be headway? I think states are threatened enough to do it. Um, but the whole Maine situation, like, that's insane that they have put up such a fight to let men into it. Like, that to me is the definition of insanity. Like, that is crazy to me that you are dying on this hill of a 90-10 issue. I would even go as far as saying it's 95-5 issue
Totally with
that
you.
people don't want men and women's sports. And here's the question that nobody wants to answer is, why is it always men and women's sports, never women and men's sports? Why are these men
Isn't it kind of
so,
obvious?
it's crazy. I mean, I agree, but like, why are we not talking about that more? Like, that's very weird. Like, to me, I mean, women are going to get pummeled. Just if we're gonna be honest, we want to be in the NFL. We're gonna get pummeled by a 260-pound man. Like, that's just how it is. I don't make the rules. That's just biology. Which, again, trust the science. And so I do think that what President Trump is doing, while I don't love executive orders, I do think it's making an impact in this situation. I really do, and I think that hopefully it will help steer the ship and course correct the ship enough where, because Congress is going to be tough, because again we have those squishy Republicans. Congress is going to be tough to pass anything like that through, which once again is insane to say that we are even having this conversation. Like, it is insane.
It
um
is.
so I'm hoping that through his executive orders there will be enough pressure on states, if he's withholding federal funding or whatever it is. I know he's taking a couple routes to do it. um, I think it's a step in the right direction for sure. For sure.
Okay, I respect that. It's
How is
definitely a
that?
step in the right direction. Yeah, it's great. I like the honesty. Challenge it a little bit on the executive orders. It's
For
good.
sure. Yeah, and I get heat for it all the time, but I just, I'm a constitutional girly, and I don't know, just having one, and again, I love Trump. I'm a big Trumper, but I don't know. Just think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, what are some other issues or topics that are important to you for America right now, besides this men and women dichotomy we got going on? Is there anything else that you're
Yeah,
passionate about?
I'm very passionate about the pro-life movement. Like, it is my number one issue. And the reason being is 13 years ago, I had an abortion, and I was a number to Planned Parenthood, and I experienced them firsthand. I went to the clinic. I took the first pill at the clinic, took the second pill at home, and almost died in my bathtub from the pills, which is crazy. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about being a woman and how the left is so adamantly attached to telling women that they cannot be what God made women for. And when I went through my abortion, there was something almost profound in a way that happened to me afterwards, in the fact that I realized how truly anti-woman and anti-life the left is. Because when you go to Planned Parenthood, um, they basically tell you that if there's any complications, they're going to be there for you. You call them at any time. They are your support system. And I remember calling them when I was so weak. I had lost so much blood at this point. And I called them and nobody picked up the phone. And at that point, you're all alone. You're going through something so detrimental and traumatizing, and nobody's there for you. And that in itself is exactly what the left does. They promise you everything. They promise you there's gold at the end of the rainbow, and then there's nothing there. And so I didn't talk about it for a long time. I mean, probably until 2023. I didn't talk about when I ran for office, like the amount of shame and guilt and regret that go with that, and having the left at the same time saying that that is the best thing that a woman can do is abort her child when we have the superpower of creating life. That's disgusting, but also very intimidating at the same time, because you have all these big stars that are saying this exact same thing, right? The media is saying it, like all the propaganda is saying it to you, and you're being demonized to think any differently. I mean, Joe Biden put pro-life protesters in prison. Um, and so I didn't say anything. I was very afraid to do that. I was very afraid to rock the boat in any way with this issue because I didn't think I was an expert. But it turns out that I'm actually a subject matter expert because I've lived it. And so I started speaking out about it. And we had a bill in the Nebraska legislature, LB 626, which was our version of the heartbeat bill that passed in Texas. And the very first time I ever talked about my abortion publicly was testifying for that bill. And unfortunately, the senator that killed the bill, because it did not pass, was the senator that I ran against when I ran for office. And that was heartbreaking to me because he was also a Republican. And I feel like the core of Republican ideology is life. And so that was very interesting dynamic. But I made it my mission to be very outspoken about abortion, be very truthful about it and honest, because I think there's so much abortion regret that women don't feel like they have the ability to talk about. Because again, the woke mob comes in and they're going to attack you and they're going to go find your employer and they're going to cancel you. And it's scary when you already have so much trauma and mental heartache and shame, truthfully, about all of it. And I also think the right has messaged this issue very, very poorly. In the fact that when I first started talking about it, I was told many times I was going to go to hell. And the last place I would go to was the
Wow.
church, because I think that there's this evangelical side of the political spectrum right now that is still in that mindset, that doesn't understand how truthfully powerful the abortion machine is to women, and more women have had an abortion than they probably know, and they don't feel comfortable enough to talk about it. And so luckily I've been hopefully very instrumental in a lot of really powerful conversations about how we as a party can move forward and really embrace women that have had abortions and be compassionate toward that, and understand and start to like really figure out in the first place how we even get to that point where we feel like that's our only option. And a lot of that, unfortunately, and I mean this as a Christian, is slash was the church. And I'm glad that we're all starting to really have that conversation about it. And hopefully we'll save a lot more women and a lot more babies going forward.
Wow.
So there's that.
Yeah. The first
Mhm.
thing I'll say is just thank you so much for sharing that. That was
Of
extremely
course.
vulnerable and
Yes.
brave, and I just feel so much from you saying all that. And I'll add, it's extremely important. Obviously life matters. I don't know how anyone could come to any other conclusion at this point.
Hmm.
And obviously horrific for so many women. The rates of depression, drug addiction, suicidality, everything afterwards, mental health issues after an
Yeah,
abortion are very, very high,
absolutely.
terrifyingly high. And I can just tell you that there's a lot of men that are also very heartbroken by that sort of thing and get no say in whether it happens or
Yeah.
not, which I don't think is okay at all.
Yeah,
So I'm
absolutely.
really glad you're fighting for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I just, I think women deserve better, and that's not Planned Parenthood, and that's not the Democratic Party. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate thing, and I guess I'll bring this up since that's what you went with the executive orders. Then I assume you were pretty stoked on Roe v. Wade being overturned. So
Hmm.
then, do you think it would seem to align? I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but do you think that should be a states issue, or do you think that that's something where it's crazy enough that the feds should step in, like I do think for sure for the gender insanity?
For sure. I actually do like this being a state issue, because Planned
Interesting.
Parenthood, yeah, Planned Parenthood um, is funded by a lot of the states. And so I think that by cutting the snake off at the head in so many ways, you're really affecting them and kneecapping them in a lot of ways. And I genuinely do believe in states' rights. I think that's very important. We cannot forget about that. I'm a very small government girly. And so, like in Nebraska, for instance, and
Girly.
here's the thing too, is I think that this issue, people did not want to talk about it while Roe v. Wade was still alive and well. And now they're forced to talk about it, and they're forced to face it, and they're forced to go, there is a clinic in my state, in my city that is doing this. And I think that it also, these states that have coalitions for this kind of stuff, it gives them more power as well. And so I do think it should be a state issue. And I know we're right next door to Colorado. Colorado allows abortion up to birth, and which is terrifying. That is a, it doesn't matter who, that
That
is a
demonic.
99-1 issue. That is a 99-1 issue, that you should not do abortions at birth. That is a child. That is 9 months. And so I do. And I think that as well, this issue impacts so many people. Like before we even talk about the gender issue, there's not even a human that they're letting live to even confront the gender issue. And so
Yeah.
I think by having it a state, a local government um, uh, factor, you're actually going to help not elect people that suck so badly when it comes to these kind of issues. And you can prevent things like the gender issue because you have good people that are going to stop harming kids at every stage of life. And so that is my 2 cents about the about the abortion issue.
Yeah, I mean that's spectacular. I love how you talk about it, and I'm totally with you on it. I guess I'm going to ask. Well, the gender issue is like a 95-5, 90-10 issue. Abortion,
Mhm.
unfortunately, isn't in our country. They've done such a good job at propagandizing people that it's a women's rights issue and that it's not a baby and all these crazy things. Someone I met was great. I'm super grateful to have met was Lila Rose, and she was just such a magnificent, kind human. Let me share my story, and she cares so much about life. And I'm curious what you think about why that one's such a harder split issue compared to the gender thing or whatever different issues. I really believe, unfortunately, that too many people think it's okay. Like when you're in California and you just go to public school, like me, they try to teach you that it's like choosing what color your shirt is or something. That it's like nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that the abortion issue we've talked about for much longer, and the messaging has been out there for so much longer. And I think that the gender issue will get there. But think about it. Roe v. Wade was at 50 years, right? It's been an issue for 50 plus years. And so they have had the time to develop this very well crafted messaging that you are taking away a woman's rights. She's not ready to have a child. And you're honestly taking away accountability from doing stuff. And that's how I feel too, even as someone who's had an abortion. There was no accountability for me. It was like I was, is that that's what they do. They make life easier. They say that this is going to be the easy way and you can just decide when you're ready. And it's like you're literally defying everything that human nature is here for. And they've just done such a magnificent job at messaging all of this. And so I think that we will see that same thing happen, and that same roller coaster, I would say, with the gender issue. They just haven't had the time to do it yet. And so I think that we can learn a few things from the abortion issue before the gender issue could possibly become a 50-50. I mean, I would even say the abortion issue is probably a 50-50 issue. It just kind of depends on where you
I
see, like
concur.
12 weeks, 8 weeks. I don't know. It's all different for everybody. There's a wide range for that.
I think every innocent human life should be protected, but go on.
Right, right, 100%. But I mean, when I talk to people about it, they're like, "Oh, I'd be fine with 8 weeks." I'm like, okay, but then somebody else will say the moment of conception, and somebody else will say 9 months. And there's such a wide range where they really have that flexibility to craft a message perfectly for whatever you think. And again, I do think the gender issue is going to get there. I think they're going to craft a very strategic communication plan for it, where if we don't stop it now, which I'm so glad we have people like you that are fighting and talking about it and stopping it before it becomes that. Because I think if people didn't stand up 3, 4, 5 years ago, we would be in the exact same place that we would be with abortion. So thank you to all the work that you're doing to stop the madness and to bring all of this disgustingness to the forefront. I think that's very impactful, and you probably saved so many lives you don't even know it yet.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I just appreciate your Nebraska kindness.
Of
It
course.
definitely shows.
Yes.
I'm doing what I think any dad has a duty to do, any
Hmm.
man, any person who believes
Absolutely.
in kids'
That's
love and
good.
innocence. How could you see it, any of these things, and just put up with them or stay quiet?
Right.
I don't understand.
Right. But they give you the tools to do it, I think, and they give you the fear to stay quiet. And it takes a strong person to not do that and to speak with truth and in strength. And that's very, very important.
It is. I think that courage is the most important virtue. The time to speak up's now. I think we are going to end this. I think that this is like a moment in history that we'll look back upon, and it's just a very we have something to fight for, to be a part of. Everyone's always saying our generation lacks like meaning, like we don't have a great war. We have one right here, and it's a war on children. Whether you want to say it's the life issue or the gender issue, they're both a war on children, quite frankly.
Yep.
And so we do have something to fight for. That's so. It's the most important thing. So I really
Absolutely.
think there's a lot of yeah. There's so much meaning and purpose in this fight.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I'm really stoked that you know, believe the things you do, fight for the things you
Thank
do,
you.
speak the truth that you do. I want you to close us off. Give us your final words of wisdom, or tell us what you're working on, or anything you want to say to, to end this in a positive way.
I always love the quote from Ronald Reagan, no matter how cliche it may seem, but it's freedom is only one generation away from extinction. And I think this is something that we have to remember because the fight is never over. Freedom is never saved. It has to be fought for every day. The rent is due every single day. And so I think some people think just because we've crossed one hump, there's not going to be another one. And so I just encourage people to remember that in this fight, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but the fight will always remain consistent. And so, like truly finding your people in this fight that will help you, encourage you during those times is huge. And there's a huge community of us that have been probably exactly where you're at if you're new to these conversations or these things, because we're there for you. There's a huge network of people, and there's more of us than there are of them. As we talked about the 90-10 issue, 90% of people are on the right side of history, and they like to make you think that it's much less, but it's not. So courage is contagious, and I just encourage everybody to find that within yourself. And then what am I working on? Not really too much right now. I am doing a lot of communication for the Republican Party, also doing my Omaha YR stuff and helping some local businesses around Omaha, and just fighting the good fight every day.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for what you do, for speaking up. You're a wonderful person. I'm so glad to have met you at AmFest. And
Yes.
Miss Nebraska, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a joy.
You're welcome. All right, take care, everyone.